So welcome everyone to the webinar today. This is Carta Elise with the Pet Sustainability Coalition. I am, for all of our pet sustainability members, your implementation manager, here to work directly with you to implement sustainability projects, improvements for real business value. Very excited for this next chapter in our Quick Impact Assessment webinar series. To dive in on bottom line savings and efficiency with our very special guest, John Rooks of Rapport. Just a little bit about John. He has over 20 years experience in the environmental and sustainability fields. He was the founder of the sustainability consulting firm SOAP. He's also certified in Global Reporting Initiative disclosure protocols, and has really had a career focus, particularly in behavior change for sustainability. He is now the CEO of Rapport, which is an awesome platform that I am really excited to share with you, and he's going to tell us a lot more about that. Just to dive in ahead here, let's see. So once again, we are here as the Sustainability Coalition to really help you all accelerate your business through environmental and social impact strategies. And these webinars fall under the category of education. Out of the many other things that we do, we really like to make sure that you are empowered with the knowledge and the tools to take action in driving really meaningful business change in our industry. The Quick Impact Assessment is a part of our Accelerator program, and it's an assessment that all our members take in order to baseline performance so that we can then work with you to identify those opportunities for improvement, as well as really elevate the things that are working and make sure that those continue to stay baked into your DNA and also elevated to buyers, retailers, consumers who are out there. And we also have our Green Paw program coming up at Super Zoo this year, so if you haven't gotten your paw yet, definitely check that out. And of course, the Quick Impact Assessment focuses on 5 different performance areas. And today we're going to take a deeper dive into the performance area of environment. However, there are actually some really interesting benefits to workers and sometimes community when we look at wastewater and energy efficiency. So with that, I'm going to pass it along to John Rooks. I'm going to make him presenter here real quick. Actually, just kidding. I'm going to, yes, make you the presenter. Actually, here we go. All right, passing it over to you. John, do you now have control of?
I believe I do.
Great.
Let me just do a quick mic check here, make sure everyone can see that slide that says agenda on it. Carta Elise, can you see that?
I am still seeing my screen, so give me just a second. I'm going to exit out. See. Here we go. Got it. Yeah, we are there. Okay. Thank you. All right, take it away, John.
Great. Carta Elise, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for joining today. Quick agenda for today, then we'll get right into it. I'm going to talk a little bit about a few of the landscapes that are requiring some of this data tracking and data disclosure. And talk a little bit about why the metrics matter. We're going to walk through a case study of some real specific things that some companies have done to reduce their carbon, water, and waste footprint. I'm going to give you a quick demo of the sustainability platform, and then Carta Elise and I will open it up for Q&A. So without further ado, let me talk a little bit about the technology landscape that's been evolving for the last few years around sustainability data tracking. You've got, think of it like an iceberg. At the top of the iceberg, you've got the largest companies that have really big, beautiful, complicated, expensive software that's designed for complex organizations. And then the rest of us, the little guys, are stuck with a handful of platforms. By and large, the most dominant one is Microsoft Excel, is what people are using. If they're tracking, a lot of times, most of the time, they're using Excel, which is a primitive tool, probably at best, when it comes to tracking environmental footprint and doing any planning. From a data landscape perspective, what's driving a lot of the market and a lot of the data around the ecosystem of supply chains is the largest companies are requiring data from the rest of us. So you've got the 1% requiring usually an annual look at data, which is oftentimes for companies like mine requires a sense of survey fatigue and sometimes even action fatigue, responding to Walmart survey, Target survey, Carbon Disclosure Project, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen instances where people are getting 5 or 6 different surveys each year with about 30% overlap of the same information, which is creating some tension actually in supply chains. But inevitably, data right now is just traveling up. People are taking a guess at their carbon footprint, or they're pulling the data from the spreadsheet and sending it up to their suppliers. Now, the landscape looks a little bit like this. You've got the 1% who need a 30,000-foot view of their supply chain. They need to be able to see shapes and hot spots and big picture things on an annual basis. Those views aren't very practical for the little guy, the small and medium-sized businesses that get trapped in those supply chains. What those groups need is they need about a 6-foot view. They need much more frequent data, oftentimes on a monthly basis, so that they can make business decisions and implement changes in processes and procedures, and show progress to their stakeholders, typically employees, on a much more frequent basis and more granular basis. So those are sort of some of the conditions that we're dealing in when we start talking about reducing footprint for small, mid-sized businesses within supply chains. Why these things matter, this is a Grant Thornton study that was done. It's a really sort of a very inspirational sort of 3 sets of data. There's market, social, and operational pressures that are happening to businesses. 64% are tracking data due to customer demand. That's a market condition. Another 62% are looking at it because they feel like it's the right thing to do. So there's a social pressure there. And then the largest, although not by a large amount, the people are looking to save money. The arguments and the case for sustainability as just a smarter business practice have been made over and over again. I don't think are in contention anymore. The first 50% of sustainability will save you money in the short term. The second 50% are a little bit longer horizon, but are no less relevant when it comes to saving money. It really comes down to being a more efficient operation. So this is some data points pulled out of some of our users on our platform, and I'll walk through how these are being accomplished, and then we'll take a look at the platform itself. So the first step here in visualize in data surrounding sustainability, again, predominantly environmental impact, is really about making that data visible so that it's not trapped in banker boxes full of utility bills, but we're pulling it out of the drawers and out of other systems like QuickBooks, and making the carbon impact of your footprint, or making the impact of your footprint much more visible to decision makers, in order for them to identify the hot spots within their own organization. So once we can see the data and we've got some cool visualizations around it, maybe we're looking at it month over month, maybe we're indexing it by production volumes or by employees, we can start to identify where our brightest hotspots are. Once we understand those hotspots and have visualized them, we can start to engage people around them. Again, if you're a sustainability manager at a company, you may need to engage senior management. So you can use dashboards to look at the financial cost of your electricity use. Or you could look at it and say, let's engage our employees. If you have someone working the third shift on a piece of equipment, there's probably not a better person to ask about how to make that equipment run a little bit more efficient. So one of the things that we've seen with our users is they take our dashboards and they put them up in their break rooms. It's just a signal to the workforce that this is important to the organization. Again, and if you can highlight the hotspots, you can use these engagement opportunities, these employee engagement opportunities, to do some ideation, brainstorming, and even build incentive systems around coming up with ideas to reduce solid waste disposal, for example. That feeds into planning, that feeds into goal setting, which cycles back into visibility. How far are we along our path to reaching our goals? So we've seen different footprint improvements throughout the platform. Typically see about a 12% reduction in energy use, electricity, natural gas, even airline miles, those types of energy inputs. 30% savings in water. If you're a water-intensive production, we can save a lot of resources there. And then we've seen solid waste disposals, moving companies from one dumpster pickup a week to one a month. And again, these are done a variety of ways, but one of the most successful ways is by using the dashboards to engage employees and engage other stakeholders inside the company in what's going on and where the hotspots are. So I'll talk a little bit how we do it, and then I'll show you how we do it. The first step is to automate data in. So wherever possible, we're collecting data directly from utilities. Energy, water, and waste utilities. It's easier with some utilities than it is with others. Electricity's getting pretty easy. Water's not too bad. Solid waste can still be a bit of a challenge, but not impossible depending on your waste hauler. If you have a local guy, local company coming that just picks up your cardboard, chances are we're not going to be able to automate that data feed. One of the ways to think about it is if you have access to an online portal to pay a bill or see your usage, we can get the data out of that. And we can automate that into our dashboards and our calculations. So we're using calculations for all of our carbon footprinting. They're all based off EPA best practices. So once we get the data automated in, and we're minimizing to every extent possible any duplicate entry of data, i.e. a spreadsheet or some other system, we can start doing these visualizations and these data analytics. So what you see there is just a quick example of one. From here, this is kind of the other way that we help you save money. The data and your usage and a little bit of information about your operations goes into a database. And anyone who's shopped on Amazon is familiar with their recommendation engine. Well, we sort of have a very similar model where we understand a little bit about your footprint and your industry, and we start providing you with context-based best practices. So if you're water intensive, you will probably see more water best practices. If you're within certain industrial areas, you'll see data or best practices that are specific to other companies just like yours. That's what our engine is doing. It's looking for other companies like yours and showing you what they did to reduce their footprint. I'll give a quick example of in the brewery space. So we happen to have a lot of breweries on the platform. And when we see water usage go down but beer production stay the same, we prompt that user and say, hey, congratulations, by the way, we just noticed that your water footprint's down about 15% over last month. What did you do? And we got some feedback that they implemented a new standard operating procedure for cleaning the tanks that used less water. We took that data, we anonymized it, and we pushed it out to all the other breweries on the platform. And what they see when they log in is, companies like yours have implemented the following best practices, saving them 15% of water and this much money. And here's what your expected payback could be for the same best practice. So there's a little bit of crowdsourcing going on here and sharing of data that's anonymized within an industry. Again, so what we're looking for is real context-based best practices. I'm going to hop out of here real quick and just get into my demo account. So this is a demo account of the platform itself. I'm going to walk through the dashboards because that's where it's the sexiest. The first dashboard you see here is a summary dashboard. If you're collecting data from suppliers, which the system enables, it'll show you if the supplier data is up to date. If your suppliers are also on our platform, that data travels automatically up to you. We've got a list of their most recent best practices sent with the potential savings, an estimated break even, and where they are, whether it's new, whether it's in progress, or whether it's been deferred. I'll show you a little bit more about that. And then just some real quick glances. Here's your overall footprint broken down by sites, a little carbon map, recent activity, if new data has been added, and then some footprinting. The quick tiles that I'll show here are really just sort of trend lines to show you how you're doing progress to your goals. Orange lines are footprint, green is the costs, so it would be the cost of the electricity or the natural gas. We currently have about 70 different impacts on the platform. A large number of those have sort of locked-in carbon calculations associated with them. So we're tracking things like commuter miles, airline miles, number 6 fuel oil, sort of a bunch of, all the sort of energy-related things. But we also allow you to create your own custom impacts. If you've got a really unique waste stream, back to breweries, they all want to track their spent grain because they're either selling it or giving it away to local farms. So they want a way to track that so they can create their own impact. These tabs that you're seeing up here at the top really are different ways to view the data. So I'll go into the Sites tab. So these are all the sites that this particular company is looking at. And it's showing the carbon footprint, in this case CO2 by site. But I can change and just look at one site. Or I could just compare 2 sites. And I could say, let's just compare 2 sites and look at natural gas only. Or let's look at electricity airline miles and see how they're doing. Again, we're looking for hotspots. I could look at pure volume as a way to view the data. The cost of the data would be another. And I can index by things like employee, square footage, or output. So if I've got a manufacturing output, get that data into here. It'll show me the carbon footprint of the product that I am creating. We can also look at these from bar charts. Bars or lines, doesn't matter to us. The Carbon Analytics tab, people tend to like. It's sort of a big roll-up of everything. So I'm looking at a real specific date range. We can tweak that date range as much as we want. And this is a roll-up of all my footprints that I'm tracking, all the impacts that I'm tracking, as well as their cost for that date range. And then down here we see an interactive carbon map where the center of the platform shows you the company total. The first ring would be different sites that you were tracking. So if you had a couple of sites and you were looking at manufacturing versus warehouse, you could look at those and see what percentage of the footprint they accounted for. The next ring out would be functions within your company. So manufacturing versus administration, for example. Then the last ring is the impact themselves. Airline miles, electricity associated with administration versus electricity associated with manufacturing. So again, we're just trying to give you new ways to see where your footprint exists, to give you some direction on where to reduce it. And so this is an example of a type of best practice. These best practices can be super technical, like installing a three-phase voltage optimization box. It'll give you a projected savings on your electricity based on what we know about your usage, and what you're paying for electricity. We can show what an anticipated breakpoint is. At this point, it says you're being shown this because it's relative to other New England plastic manufacturers, for example. You can accept it. You can say, yeah, let's put this one in. Let's put a pin in this one. Look at it later, or you can decline it, and you won't see it again. Some of the best practices, again, are sort of operational, not necessarily technical, like new cleaning procedures. Some of them are much more cultural and employee engagement driven, like displaying dashboards in the break room, or recommendations for signage around recycling centers, things like that. So that is, let's see, it's about as complicated as I can make our system. Data gets in a few different ways. Again, we've got automatic data syncs from utilities. We've got, in some cases, automated data links from suppliers. But in other ways, we can just simply do some hand entry if we have to. If we can't get data from our airline carrier, it's just like, we've got a date picker, the quantity and cost, hit save, and you're off and running, and you've got your list of data that's been collected here. So that's the system that we built it about 2 years ago, and have been onboarding companies since. So that's about as far as I can take us into this. Cartelise, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for that, John.
Yeah, I'm going to stop my screen, change presenter. Back to you.
Great. I am going to accept that. Go to full screen. So before we dive into questions, I also just want to give everyone a quick view of next steps. One is that the PSC has in our toolkit, specifically on efficiency, we have a really quick and dirty audit that you can download and plug in, your current electricity, gas, water, etc., and just get a kind of a rough draft sense of what your savings could potentially be by engaging with reduction strategies. And that's just to give you a taste. But what I'm even more excited about is announcing that we are very pleased to be partnering with Rapport, and John Rooks has been very gracious in offering all of you as PSC members 30% off of a yearly subscription to the platform. So we really encourage you to take advantage of this. We are a community that measures what matters, and John Rooks and Rapport has made this incredibly accessible and easy, with some really great potential outputs to celebrate the savings that you're going to see over time, as well as build that into your brand story. So let's see what else we have here. I'm just going to back up, and at this point, are there any questions? If you can take yourself off mute, go for it. If not, just raise your hand, and I will see if I can unmute you. You can also enter a question into the question boxes. Make some room there. So any questions for John at this point? Anything specific popping up for folks? Not seeing much come through. I will dive ahead a little bit in case there are, as we wait for some questions. Just to give you all a heads up, we have 2 more webinars lined up in our series on different areas of the Quick Impact Assessment. So definitely earmark those dates and you'll get emails from me, I promise, as those approach. Also, we are always open to feedback. Love to hear how these webinars are working for you. And if you have a particular interest in another another particular topic, please shoot me an email and let me know. Looks like we have a question that's come in from Nadia asking, how many pet industry customers do you currently work with, John, at Rapport?
None right now, none yet, which is why we're excited about this partnership. The other thing I'll mention, I'm a fairly poor salesperson because I didn't talk about pricing. It's all pretty transparent on our website, but in general, our pricing is we charge $99 a month per site that you want to track. So that's something to sort of keep in track. Our whole mission is, we talk about it sort of, to democratize sustainability, is really about two things. One is making it affordable to mid-sized companies, and the second is making it really easy. We think if we can do those two things, then we have a really good opportunity to move the needle for mid-sized businesses as well. But specifically to the question, we do not have, I don't believe we have any pet industry customers on the platform today.
This is our opportunity to start showing up in a big way on your platform.
Right, exactly.
For any other questions from folks at this point, you can enter that into the question field or raise your hand and I can unmute you. We just have another minute or so. And I have just a quick question. John, you had mentioned that, what's part of what's built into this platform are recommendations for best practices. And I don't know if we have time to go back into the platform itself, but those end up somewhere where I can access them. Is that right? And be able to take next steps with them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, and they're really coming from a few different places also. They're coming from our own experience. We've got about 45 years of experience on our founding team, working with really progressive companies like Interface Carpet, Cliff Bar, Daimler Chrysler. Just, we've been doing this for a while, so I have a lot of consulting knowledge. They're also coming from some NGO partners that provide industry-specific best practices. And they're also coming from other platform partners, other platform members. So again, that sort of crowdsourced place. And when you log in, you can see a list of the best practices that we've deemed as being most relevant to you and the status of them. So there's always sort of a running tally of things to do.
Great, thank you for that. So just a minute or so left. I'm going to see if I can back up here. I skipped these just in order to save us some time, but if it's of value, I wanted to give an example of one of our actually founding member companies, Healthy Pet. They did a lot of really great work in particularly here energy efficiency and saw tremendous savings with the bonus of it also improving working conditions and productivity for their employees. And they did this without the Rapport platform. So imagine what you can do with this platform and that ease of data and working with it to really make a difference. One more example of the incredible work they did in looking at reducing their waste with a simple $1,000 investment in receptacles, a little bit of employee education and signage. They went from 26 dumpsters down to 2 per year. So just wanted to give you a sense of one of our member companies that's done this work, and they did it on their own, and it's a little bit tougher that way, working from Excel spreadsheets and kind of doing the math that way. So really excited to have this opportunity, John Rooks, to partner with you and Rapport, and really excited for our members to jump in and work with you as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely. So I think with that, we will wrap it up. I'll say thank you to you all so much for joining us today. Much appreciated. Please feel free to email me with any questions you have, any feedback. All of our webinars are recorded, and you can find those on our website. And for everyone that's registered today, you'll get a copy of the slides and links to pertinent information. We'll look forward to seeing you all next time. Thanks so much for being a member of our community that measures what matters. And thank you again, John Rooks, so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day.